Ever wonder how a glamorous movie star could clear a room faster than a fire alarm? Let's talk about the leading ladies whose scents weren't quite Oscar-worthy. Take Loretta Young, known as one of Hollywood's most elegant stars. She was the picture of grace on screen, always polished and poised. Off-screen, however, she faced the same struggles as her peers when it came to hygiene. The early days of filmmaking weren't exactly known for comfort or cleanliness, and even the most glamorous stars had to make do. Sets were hot, dusty, and poorly ventilated. Combine that with hours in heavy costumes under intense lights, and you've got a recipe for sweat. Deodorant wasn't a staple yet, and showering every day wasn't always practical. Like many actresses of her time, Young turned to powders and perfumes to keep fresh. It wasn't ideal, but it got the job done. Young was known for her meticulous habits. Some said she went to great lengths to maintain her image, even when conditions made it nearly impossible. Despite the challenges, she never let the less than glamorous realities show. On screen, she dazzled, and fans never guessed what went on behind the scenes. Colleagues sometimes whispered about how strict she was with her routines. She reportedly carried her own stash of scented products and was careful about how she presented herself at all times. But those whispers never got in the way of her success. If anything, they added to her mystique as one of Hollywood's most disciplined stars. Her dedication paid off. Loretta Young became a symbol of old Hollywood refinement, setting a standard for grace and professionalism. While others struggled to balance the demands of the industry, she seemed to handle it effortlessly, even if the reality was far from easy. Loretta Young didn't just survive Hollywood's grueling standards, she thrived. She showed that staying polished under pressure wasn't just about appearances. It was a skill, but Loretta wasn't the only star navigating Hollywood's hidden realities. Jean Harlow, for example, rose to fame in the 1930s with her signature platinum blonde hair and undeniable magnetism. Her image was meticulously crafted to embody the ultimate glamour of the era. But even Harlow couldn't escape Hollywood's unspoken truths. Stories circulated that Harlow had a strong natural scent, surprising for someone so closely tied to perfection on screen. Fellow actors and crew reportedly noticed it, and some found it hard to ignore. Her scent became a talking point behind the scenes, with whispers that she didn't prioritize personal hygiene as much as her public image might suggest. Harlow didn't seem too concerned about the gossip. Known for her rebellious spirit, she wasn't one to follow every societal expectation. She embraced her individuality, even if it meant going against Hollywood's ideals. While she did use perfumes and powders to mask any odors, it didn't completely erase the chatter. Still, Harlow carried on with her signature confidence, embodying the bad girl persona that fans adored. It's worth remembering the era she lived in. In the 1930s, modern antiperspirants and hygiene products weren't widespread. Many stars relied on perfumes and oils to cover up natural smells, and body odor wasn't considered a deal-breaker unless it was particularly noticeable. Some even argued that a natural scent added to a star's mystique. In Harlow's case, however, her scent drew more attention than most. Despite the rumors, Harlow's career soared. Her striking beauty and undeniable talent kept her in the spotlight, proving that even Hollywood's gossip mill couldn't slow her down. She became a symbol of glamour and allure, embodying the contradictions of her time. Flawless on screen, yet human behind the scenes. The whispers about her scent may have followed her, but they never defined her. Harlow remained an icon, showing that even the biggest stars weren't immune to imperfections, or to the relentless curiosity of Hollywood. This fascination with the private lives of celebrities extended to another legend of the silver screen, Marlene Dietrich. Known for her sharp fashion sense, commanding presence, and unparalleled elegance, Dietrich seemed untouchable. Yet behind the scenes, she faced the same realities as her peers, including the challenge of staying fresh under the intense demands of Hollywood's spotlight. A Hollywood legend of elegance and allure, she had a reputation for perfection. With her sharp fashion sense and mesmerizing charm, she seemed untouchable. But even Dietrich had to deal with everyday challenges, like body odor. Unlike many of her peers, she tackled it with precision. Dietrich kept her hygiene routine mostly private. She was secretive about her beauty habits, but those close to her knew she didn't leave anything to chance. While other stars might simply cover up odors with perfume, Dietrich had a more thoughtful approach. She was meticulous about her scent, always carrying her favorite fragrances and reapplying them throughout the day. Her goal? To ensure she always smelled as polished as she looked. Her attention to detail didn't stop there. Dietrich actively avoided situations that could lead to unpleasant smells. On set, she steered clear of anything too sweaty or physically demanding. She was known for carefully preserving her composed demeanor, even during grueling shoots. While she couldn't completely avoid natural body odor, she made sure it was never an issue for those around her. This level of effort wasn't just about vanity, it was part of her brand. Dietrich's image was built on sophistication and control, and her scent was another way to reinforce that. She understood that managing her appearance, down to the smallest detail, was key to maintaining her status as a style icon, even with her careful planning. Dietrich wasn't immune to criticism, but her ability to handle such challenges with grace set her apart. She took control of her personal scent in a way that felt intentional and empowering rather than insecure. Dietrich's approach to body odor showed her commitment to her craft and her image. She didn't just look glamorous. She made sure every aspect of her presence lived up to that standard. Her efforts paid off, solidifying her as one of Hollywood's most polished and iconic stars. Dietrich didn't leave anything to chance, and it showed. If Dietrich represented precision and poise, Mae West embodied boldness and rule-breaking. Known for her razor-sharp wit and unflinching confidence, West built a career on challenging societal norms and reveling in her individuality. But while her larger-than-life persona dazzled audiences, whispers behind the scenes painted a different picture. West's approach to personal hygiene was, like much about her, unconventional. Hollywood insiders often whispered about her less-than-conventional habits, creating a surprising contrast to her polished on-screen image. Rumor had it that West wasn't too concerned about the cleanliness routines her peers followed. While many actresses spent hours perfecting their looks, West focused more on her personality and charm. Stories circulated that she rarely showered and didn't prioritize the beauty regimens expected in Hollywood. Her natural scent became a topic of gossip among crew members, with some claiming she often smelled like she hadn't bathed in a while. These whispers added another layer of intrigue to her already larger-than-life persona. West's nonchalant attitude toward hygiene reflected her broader defiance of societal norms. She didn't care about conforming to the expectations placed on women in the industry. For her, being Mae West was enough. The Hollywood machine, usually quick to censor anything that might damage a star's image, chose to overlook the rumors. Her undeniable star power and boundary-pushing roles were far more important than a little body odor. Despite the gossip, West never let it faze her. If anything, the whispers only added to her mystique. She wasn't about to let something as trivial as hygiene define her. Instead, she leaned into her reputation as someone who broke the mold. Her refusal to conform to beauty standards made her even more compelling. The rumors about her hygiene may have been a footnote in her story, but they didn't stop her from shining. If anything, they reinforced her status as a woman who lived life on her terms, unapologetically and unbothered by judgment. Mae West didn't just play by her own rules. She rewrote the game entirely. Elizabeth Taylor, on the other hand, represented a different kind of Hollywood legend. With her mesmerizing violet eyes, radiant beauty, and unforgettable performances, she epitomized the glamour of the silver screen. Taylor's carefully curated image, much like her dazzling collection of jewelry, was crafted to perfection. Yet even she wasn't immune to behind-the-scenes whispers, this time about her natural scent. Theodore, a famed costume designer who worked closely with Taylor, famously shared his experience. He claimed Taylor had a strong, natural odor that often clashed with her perfumes. To compensate, she would reapply fragrance multiple times a day. Despite her best efforts, her scent was something crew members quietly noticed. It wasn't necessarily unpleasant, just unexpected for someone as polished as Taylor. On set, her scent became a low-key topic of gossip. Many assumed a star of her caliber would carry a delicate, glamorous aroma to match her image. The reality didn't quite align, but as with most stars of the era, Hollywood's focus stayed on her public persona. Her private quirks, including her scent, were kept under wraps. After all, Taylor's beauty and talent were what truly mattered. Taylor herself didn't seem fazed by these whispers. She was a consummate professional, and her on-screen magnetism always took center stage. Whatever was said behind her back didn't stop her from shining. The Hollywood system, ever protective of its stars, kept these details out of the public eye. Taylor remained untouchable. Even with these behind-the-scenes stories, Taylor's star power was unshakable. Fans adored her for her beauty, talent, and charisma. Her scent, whether a little strong or perfectly perfumed, did nothing to dim her brilliance. She continued to dominate the silver screen and the headlines, solidifying her legacy as one of the greatest stars of all time. As long as the public adored you, a few backstage quirks didn't matter. For Taylor, her natural scent was just another footnote in the story of a woman who captivated the world, flaws and all. Her fascination with fragrance extended beyond personal use, culminating in the launch of her own iconic perfumes. Among these, Violet Eyes, named in homage to her legendary eye color, became a standout. Speaking of legendary stars, Marilyn Monroe remains a symbol of beauty, glamour, and sex appeal, but even the brightest icons have their quirks. Behind her flawless public image and dazzling screen presence, whispers about her body odor became a lesser-known part of her story. Monroe, known for her ethereal beauty and captivating charm, had her own set of personal habits that contrasted sharply with the perfection she projected to the world. Long days on set under harsh studio lights often left her sweating, and she didn't always address the issue. Crew members and co-stars noticed, and some quietly commented on her natural scent. It wasn't a constant issue, but it happened enough to become a topic of discussion. Despite this, Monroe made efforts to manage her image. She famously adored Chanel No. 5, claiming she wore nothing else to bed. The perfume became part of her signature allure, masking any potential odors. However, her heavy application of fragrance sometimes created a different issue. Tony Curtis, who starred with Monroe in Some Like It Hot, once remarked that she had a noticeable scent, which he described as overpowering. Whether this was from too much perfume or her natural body odor, it became a talking point among those who knew her. Monroe's hygiene habits reflected her complex relationship with herself. She was self-conscious about her appearance and struggled to meet the impossible standards of Hollywood. Yet, she had an innate charm that made people forgive her flaws. Her imperfections didn't detract from her talent or her ability to captivate audiences. In a world obsessed with perfection, Monroe's scent became a quiet reminder of her humanity. She wasn't the unattainable goddess people imagined. She was real, with struggles and insecurities like anyone else. Her beauty, vulnerability, and charisma left an indelible mark on Hollywood. Her scent, whether Chanel No. 5 or something less glamorous, was just a small part of her story. While Monroe's allure thrived on her authenticity, Grace Kelly embodied an entirely different standard: immaculate elegance. From her Hollywood stardom to her reign as Princess of Monaco, Kelly's flawless image became her defining characteristic. What many didn't know was how much effort she put into maintaining that perfection, especially when it came to personal hygiene. Kelly's attention to detail was unmatched. Her beauty wasn't just about makeup and designer clothes. It extended to her daily routines. She was reportedly meticulous about staying fresh, making frequent showers a priority. While other actresses might have let hygiene slip during grueling filming schedules, Kelly refused to let long days compromise her standards. Her skin was often described as radiant, and she took pride in maintaining it. Fragrance was another key part of her routine. Kelly carefully chose high-quality perfumes to complement her polished image. Her scent was said to be subtle yet unforgettable, aligning perfectly with her poised demeanor. Those who worked closely with her often remarked on her clean, refined presence. Kelly didn't just look glamorous. She embodied it in every way. Her approach to hygiene wasn't about vanity. For Kelly, it was a reflection of her respect for her public role. As a future princess, she knew the world was always watching. Any misstep, no matter how small, could become a headline. She understood the power of perception and worked hard to ensure her appearance lived up to the high expectations placed on her. Kelly's dedication to her image set her apart. In an industry where even the smallest flaw could be magnified, she managed to stay pristine. Her natural scent never became a point of gossip because she made sure it never would. This commitment to perfection didn't go unnoticed. Fans admired her not just for her beauty and talent, but for the grace and discipline she brought to every aspect of her life. Grace Kelly's hygiene routine might seem like a minor detail, but it played a crucial role in creating the aura that surrounded her. Every decision she made reflected the poise and sophistication that made her an icon. In contrast to Kelly's polished perfection, Ava Gardner exuded a different kind of allure, one rooted in sensuality and unapologetic authenticity. Gardner was the ultimate blend of beauty and rebellion, captivating audiences not just with her stunning looks, but with her fiery personality. Unlike many of her contemporaries who masked themselves in layers of perfume to conform to Hollywood's ideals, Ava embraced her natural scent as an extension of her raw, unfiltered self. Gardner's scent became a talking point among those who worked closely with her. Friends and co-stars often described her fragrance as musky, bold, and distinct. It wasn't the floral or powdery aroma typically expected from Hollywood starlets. Ava wasn't one to rely on perfume to mask her natural smell. Instead, she allowed it to add to her earthy, untamed appeal. Her natural fragrance was as striking and memorable as her screen presence, leaving an impression on everyone around her. Whispers about her body odor didn't faze her. Ava had no interest in fitting into the cookie-cutter mold of Hollywood perfection. While she maintained her appearance to a degree, her career demanded it. She refused to obsess over the beauty standards of the time. Her grooming routine was practical, not performative. She wasn't the type to spend hours perfecting every detail for the sake of appearances. That relaxed attitude set her apart, both on and off screen. For Gardner, her natural scent wasn't a flaw. It was part of what made her unique. She didn't see the need to hide who she was, even if it meant raising a few eyebrows. Her unapologetic approach to hygiene became part of her mystique, adding depth to her already captivating persona. Ava Gardner's natural fragrance, much like her personality, refused to conform. It became another layer of her undeniable allure. Gardner's boldness, beauty, and unapologetic authenticity made her unforgettable. She wasn't just a star. She was a force, unapologetically herself in every way. Joan Crawford, on the other hand, represented a different kind of force, one of discipline and control. Known for her tireless commitment to her craft and her image, Crawford demanded perfection, not just from herself, but from everyone in her orbit. Her meticulous attention to detail was legendary, whether it was her famously spotless home or her carefully cultivated public persona. While she appeared polished and glamorous on screen, behind the scenes, her personal scent became a quiet topic of conversation. Crawford was meticulous about her grooming. She took great pride in her appearance, spending hours perfecting her look. However, rumors suggested her attention to detail didn't always extend to addressing body odor. Some insiders described her natural scent as strong and at times overwhelming during long days on set. Crew members reportedly noticed it but knew better than to bring it up to the famously intense star. Crawford wasn't known for her willingness to take criticism lightly. One story from director Robert Aldrich's set hinted at the awkwardness her scent could cause. It said that Aldrich had to manage the issue delicately, as Crawford refused to acknowledge it as a problem. She was fiercely protective of her image and wasn't about to let anyone challenge her on something as personal as hygiene. Her stubbornness in this area was just another facet of her uncompromising personality. Despite the gossip, Crawford's public persona remained untouchable. She was seen as a symbol of glamour and professionalism. Any behind-the-scenes complaints about her scent were overshadowed by her immense talent and determination. For Crawford, keeping her public image intact mattered far more than addressing private whispers. While the rumors about her hygiene added an unexpected layer to her story, they did little to diminish her standing in the industry. In the end, her image was always bigger than the whispers. Veronica Lake, for instance, quickly became the face of 1940s glamour. Her peekaboo hairstyle wasn't just iconic, it was a full-blown phenomenon. Women everywhere tried to copy it, and she made sultry mystique look effortless. But beneath the glossy exterior, Lake struggled with the pressure to meet Hollywood's impossible standards, even when it came to personal hygiene. Whispers on set hinted that Lake didn't always play by the rules when it came to grooming. While many leading ladies bent over backward to fit the mold, she took a more laid-back approach. Insiders claimed she wasn't a fan of the meticulous rituals the studios pushed on their stars. Her relaxed attitude, paired with her independent streak, didn't sit well with Hollywood's tightly controlled image-making machine. Lake's refusal to conform went beyond hygiene. She was rebellious at her core, refusing to let anyone mold her into a cookie-cutter star. This resistance often caused friction, earning her a reputation as difficult. The rumors didn't stop there. Her iconic hairstyle, while groundbreaking, reportedly came with its own challenges. The hours of maintenance led to scalp issues, which insiders suggested may have influenced her less rigid grooming habits. Still, on screen, she made it all look flawless. Despite the gossip, Lake's charm and talent kept her on top. Audiences loved her, and her hairstyle alone cemented her legacy in fashion history. Fans never suspected the behind-the-scenes challenges, and Lake never seemed to care about the whispers. She had an effortless way of shrugging off the industry's judgment, proving she had bigger things to focus on. Lake wasn't just a symbol of old Hollywood glamour, she was the human side of it. She didn't pretend to be perfect, even when the world demanded it. Some Hollywood stars weren't just heavy drinkers, they were so drunk they had to be carried onto set. Others slurred their lines, forgot entire movies they starred in, or even died with a drink in their hand. This is the dark side of fame, the actors who were completely wasted at all times. John Barrymore. He wasn't just a star, he was Hollywood's first great alcoholic. Long before rehab was an option, he drank himself into a joke. Studios covered for him at first, but by the end, even they couldn't save him. In the 1920s, Barrymore was on top of the world. He had the looks, the voice, and the talent. But off camera, he was rarely sober. His drinking got so bad that directors had to feed him lines off camera because he couldn't remember them. Some days, he couldn't even stand up straight and had to be held up by crew members just to finish a scene. Everyone in Hollywood knew he had a problem. He showed up drunk, stayed drunk, and somehow still got roles, at first. But things fell apart quickly. One night during a live performance, he completely blanked out. Instead of trying to recover, he turned to the audience and slurred, "Line, please?" The show was shut down early, and from then on, everyone knew Barrymore wasn't the same actor anymore. By the 1930s, his drinking wrecked his career. Studios didn't want to risk hiring him, and directors stopped covering for him. Even when friends tried to help, he kept drinking. His body started shutting down, shaking hands, failing memory, and a career in free fall. It wasn't just his career that crumbled. His personal life was a mess. He burned through marriages, lost his fortune, and ruined friendships. He was once considered one of the greatest actors of his time, but by the end he was a cautionary tale. The final years? A disaster. He was broke, sick, and barely able to work. Friends had to help pay his bills, but nothing could stop him from drinking himself to death. And if you think Hollywood let him rest in peace, think again. His so-called friends stole his corpse as a prank, dragging his lifeless body around for one last drunken joke. Barrymore was the blueprint for Hollywood self-destruction. He was the first major star to drink himself into oblivion, but he wouldn't be the last. W.C. Fields. While most stars tried to hide their drinking, Fields didn't even bother. He carried a thermos full of gin everywhere, labeled with innocent words like pineapple juice or orange soda. Everyone knew what was inside, but no one dared to stop him. By the time he made it big in Hollywood, Fields was already a heavy drinker. He had spent years in vaudeville, performing night after night while nursing a constant buzz. Drinking was part of his personality, both on and off screen. He played lovable drunks in films, but behind the scenes he was far from charming when the alcohol took over. His drinking got so bad that directors had to shoot around his hangovers. Mornings were a lost cause. He was either too sick or still drunk. By afternoon, he'd start sipping from his juice thermos just to get through filming. Some days he was so hammered that he slurred entire scenes, forcing multiple retakes. Other times he skipped set entirely, leaving studios scrambling to explain his absence. Fields had a sharp wit, but when he drank, his temper flared. He'd curse out producers, insult his co-stars, and storm off set if something didn't go his way. His drinking wore down his body over time. His once sharp comedic timing started slipping, and so did his health. By the 1940s, his body was failing him. His liver was shot, and doctors warned him that if he didn't quit drinking, he wouldn't last much longer. But Fields didn't care. Instead of quitting, he had a liquor stash built into his hospital room. Nurses would find hidden bottles of whiskey under his mattress, and he'd sneak drinks when no one was looking. He drank until his final breath. When Fields died in 1946, people weren't surprised. His liver had given up long before he did. His career was legendary, but so was his drinking. And unlike other stars, he never tried to pretend otherwise. W.C. Fields wasn't just drunk all the time, he made sure everyone knew it. Errol Flynn. He was the ultimate movie hero, dashing, fearless, and always up for an adventure. But off-screen, he was a reckless alcoholic who drank so much that even Hollywood couldn't keep up with him. If there was a bottle around, Flynn was already ahead of the game. Flynn's drinking wasn't just a bad habit, it was his lifestyle. He'd start his day with champagne, switch to hard liquor by lunch, and keep going until he passed out. Studios tried to hide it, but his drinking made productions a nightmare. He slurred his lines, stumbled through action scenes, and sometimes needed to be propped up just to finish filming. During The Adventures of Robin Hood, 1938, he was so drunk during fight scenes that stunt doubles had to take over more than usual. In They Died with Their Boots On, 1941, he kept falling off his horse because he couldn't stay balanced. Directors grew frustrated, but Flynn's star power kept him employed, at least for a while. His drinking wasn't just for fun. Flynn was self-medicating, drowning out personal demons with endless bottles of rum and whiskey. He was constantly in legal trouble, facing accusations of assault and scandalous affairs. His court cases became just as famous as his movies, but instead of slowing down, he drank even harder. By the 1950s, Hollywood had enough. Studios stopped covering for him, and his reputation crashed. His once chiseled looks were puffed and bloated from years of heavy drinking. His liver was failing, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. In 1959, Flynn's body finally gave up. At just 50 years old, he died of a massive heart attack, but doctors found his organs were destroyed from years of alcohol abuse. His liver was so damaged that they said it looked like he belonged to an 80-year-old man. Flynn was Hollywood's original bad boy, but his addiction was his downfall. He lived fast, drank hard, and never made it to old age. If Hollywood was a party, Flynn drank until the lights went out. Richard Burton. He was a functioning alcoholic who drank his way through nearly every movie he made. Unlike others who tried to hide it, Burton showed up wasted on set and still delivered Oscar-worthy performances. But behind the scenes, his addiction controlled everything. Burton's drinking started early. By his 20s, he was already downing multiple bottles of liquor a day. Success only made it worse. He became one of Hollywood's highest-paid actors, but with that fame came an endless supply of booze. During Cleopatra, 1963, where he met Elizabeth Taylor, he was drunk in nearly every scene. The two fueled each other's addictions, turning their romance into a storm of booze, fights, and makeups. His drinking was legendary. He once chugged 3 bottles of vodka before noon, then went straight to filming like nothing happened. Some directors learned to work around it, shooting scenes early in the day before he got too drunk. Others just gave up, letting Burton slur his way through takes. By the 1970s, his addiction took its toll. His once powerful voice turned hoarse, his sharp looks faded, and his body started breaking down. He tried quitting. Doctors warned him he was drinking himself to death, but every attempt ended the same way. Back at the bar. Burton died in 1984 at just 58 years old. His liver was completely shot, and his body was wrecked from decades of drinking. He left behind a legacy of brilliant performances, but also a reputation as one of Hollywood's most tragic drunks. Unlike others who drank themselves out of a career, Burton somehow kept going, but his addiction won in the end. Peter O'Toole. He was a Hollywood legend, but he was also rarely sober. He built a career on charm, wit, and raw talent. while drinking so much that he sometimes couldn't remember filming entire movies. O'Toole's drinking started early. By the time he became famous in Lawrence of Arabia, 1962, he was already drinking more than his body could handle. He was known to down multiple bottles of whiskey in a single night, then show up to set the next morning like nothing happened, until it started affecting his work. His reputation as a drunken genius followed him everywhere. He would slur through scenes, forget his lines, or suddenly fall asleep in the middle of filming. On Goodbye, Mr. Chips, 1969, production shut down multiple times because he was too wasted to work. In interviews, he later admitted, "I have no memory of making some films." His drinking wasn't just a problem for Hollywood. It nearly killed him. In the 1970s, doctors found that years of alcohol abuse had destroyed his stomach lining, leading to internal bleeding and emergency surgery. They told him if he didn't stop drinking, he wouldn't survive. O'Toole tried to quit but never fully gave it up. He continued acting, but his wild behavior and heavy drinking kept him from reaching his full potential. Even later in life, when he claimed to be sober, people doubted it. His reputation was too legendary. He lived longer than most Hollywood drunks, making it to 81, but his body was wrecked from decades of drinking. When he died in 2013, fans remembered him as a brilliant actor, but also one of Hollywood's most infamous alcoholics. Peter O'Toole didn't just drink, he turned it into an art form. Oliver Reed. His reputation for out-drinking entire bars made him a legend, but it also destroyed his career and eventually his life. Reed's drinking was on another level. He didn't just sip whiskey between takes, he chugged entire bottles. He once challenged 5 Royal Navy sailors to a drinking contest and won, downing over 100 pints of beer in a single session. By the end, he had to be carried out unconscious. On set, he was a nightmare and a spectacle. Directors never knew if they were getting a world-class actor or a slurring disaster. During The Three Musketeers, 1973, he showed up so drunk that he could barely stand. He got through the scenes, but barely. By the 1980s, his drinking had wrecked his reputation. Studios didn't want the risk, and his career spiraled downward. But the real tragedy came during Gladiator, 2000. Reed had been given one last shot at a big role playing Proximo, but instead of staying focused, he went on one final drinking spree. While filming in Malta, he downed 8 pints of beer, 12 shots of rum, half a bottle of whiskey, and a few doubles of cognac, all in one sitting. That night, he collapsed and died of a massive heart attack. His death was so sudden that the film had to use CGI to finish his scenes. Reed had drunk himself to his own tragic ending. Oliver Reed's drinking wasn't just a problem, it was his identity. He outlived many of Hollywood's legendary drunks, but in the end, alcohol still won. Mickey Rourke. He had everything, looks, talent, and a rising career. But instead of building on it, he drank, fought, and burned every bridge in Hollywood. His downfall wasn't just alcohol, but it played a massive role in his destruction. In the 1980s, Rourke was unstoppable. Movies like 9.5 Weeks and Angel Heart made him one of Hollywood's most in-demand actors. But behind the scenes, he was drinking heavily, getting into bar fights, and making himself unhireable. Directors hated working with him because he was either too drunk to perform or too aggressive to control. His drinking wasn't just a problem on set, it ruined his personal life. He trashed relationships, got arrested multiple times, and became known as Hollywood's biggest liability. Instead of cleaning up, he walked away from acting and became a professional boxer, a move that only made things worse. Boxing destroyed his face, but he still drank through the pain. By the late 90s, he was broke, washed up, and completely forgotten by Hollywood. Even he admitted, "I was drinking myself to death." He lost roles, lost friends, and almost lost his life. But somehow, Rourke pulled off a comeback. He got sober, repaired some of the damage, and landed The Wrestler, 2008, a film that mirrored his own self-destructive past. It earned him an Oscar nomination, but even with success, he struggled to stay clean. Mickey Rourke should have been one of Hollywood's greatest legends. Instead, alcohol and bad choices turned him into a cautionary tale. Even today, he's a reminder of how fast Hollywood can chew you up if you let it. Dennis Hopper. He was Hollywood's ultimate wild card. For decades, he was either too drunk, too high, or too unhinged to function. Somehow, he still delivered legendary performances, even when he could barely stand upright. Hopper's drinking started early, but by the time he became famous in Easy Rider, 1969, it was out of control. He drank on set, between takes, and sometimes during filming. He was so wasted while directing the last movie, 1971, that the film became an incoherent disaster, and Hollywood blacklisted him for nearly a decade. During Apocalypse Now, 1979, Hopper was so drunk and coked out that he couldn't remember his lines. Director Francis Ford Coppola had to feed him one sentence at a time because giving him a full script was pointless. Somehow, his manic energy worked for the role, but off-screen, he was a walking train wreck. Hopper's reputation was legendary, but his career kept crashing and burning. He spent most of the 80s either too wasted to work or banned from Hollywood entirely. At his lowest, he lived in the desert, talking to himself and drinking until he hallucinated. He later admitted he was drinking 28 beers, a bottle of whiskey, and doing 3 grams of cocaine every day. Then, out of nowhere, he got sober. In 1986, he made an insane comeback with Blue Velvet, playing one of the most terrifying villains in film history. This time, the madness was acting, not alcohol. Dennis Hopper drank his way through decades of Hollywood, burning bridges and ruining opportunities. But unlike most stars on this list, he actually cleaned up and made it back. His career should have been over, but somehow he outlived his own chaos. Christopher Hitchens. He was Hollywood adjacent, a constant presence in interviews, debates, and film discussions, always with a drink in hand. Unlike most people on this list, he didn't try to hide it. In fact, he embraced his alcoholism and made it part of his public persona. Hitchens drank like it was his job. Mornings started with scotch or wine, and by afternoon he'd moved on to whiskey, vodka, or whatever was available. He once admitted that he was never fully sober past lunchtime. His friends, colleagues, and even his enemies knew that if you were meeting Hitchens, you were meeting Hitchens and his drink. Despite being constantly buzzed, he was brilliant. His ability to debate, write, and command attention never seemed to suffer, at least on the surface. He could drink glass after glass of whiskey, then go on live TV and verbally dismantle his opponents. His mind was razor sharp, even when his liver wasn't. But make no mistake, his drinking had consequences. Friends noticed his once strong voice becoming raspier, his famous wit sometimes losing its edge. He started to look tired, worn down. Years of chain smoking and drinking finally caught up to him. In 2010, he was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, the kind that heavy drinking and smoking practically guarantee. Doctors told him to quit, but he didn't see the point. He once joked that if he had his life to live over again, he would drink more, not less. Even as his body failed him, Hitchens kept writing, debating, and of course, drinking. He saw no reason to stop. It was who he was. In 2011, at 62 years old, he passed away, leaving behind a legacy of brilliant writing, sharp debates, and a lifetime of liquor-fueled intellect. Unlike Hollywood stars who drank themselves into oblivion, Hitchens never spiraled out of control, but his addiction still killed him. He was proof that even the smartest minds aren't invincible when alcohol is in the mix. Nicolas Cage. Unlike the other names on this list, he is still standing. But his reputation as Hollywood's modern-day wildcard has been fueled by years of alcohol, erratic behavior, and bizarre public meltdowns. If old-school stars drank their way into oblivion, Nicolas Cage has drunk his way into internet legend. Cage wasn't always Hollywood's unhinged meme king. In the 90s and early 2000s, he was an A-list actor with an Oscar, blockbuster hits, and critical respect. But behind the scenes, his drinking was getting out of control. Directors noticed his slurred speech, co-stars saw his erratic moods, and soon his performances started getting weirder and more unpredictable. Then, the public meltdowns started. In 2011, Cage was arrested in New Orleans for public drunkenness and disturbing the peace, after getting into a shouting match with his wife. Reports claimed he was stumbling, screaming, and too wasted to control himself. A few years later, he was caught drunkenly singing Prince's Purple Rain at a karaoke bar, so hammered that he could barely stand. The drinking wasn't just a personal issue. It wrecked his finances, too. Cage went on a spending spree fueled by booze and bad decisions, blowing through $150 million on castles, private islands, a dinosaur skull, and a pet octopus. When the IRS came knocking, he had to take every role he could get, leading to the infamous era of low-budget, straight-to-DVD Cage movies. Despite the chaos, Cage never fully collapsed like the drunks of old Hollywood. Somehow, he kept delivering performances, sometimes brilliant, sometimes downright unhinged. His 2018 film Mandy reminded people why he was a star in the first place, and in 2021, Pig earned him some of the best reviews of his career. Unlike Barrymore, Flynn, or Reed, Cage hasn't drunk himself into an early grave. Yet. But his booze-fueled antics, erratic career, and bizarre public breakdowns make him the closest thing modern Hollywood has to an old-school drunken disaster. Whether he crashes completely or somehow reinvents himself again, one thing is certain: Nicolas Cage is never boring.
Joan Fontaine's infrequent bathing, Spencer Tracy's overpowering body odor, and Veronica Lake's refusal to wash her hair regularly are just the beginning. Discover the untold stories of these glamorous stars whose notorious hygiene habits will leave you speechless. Buckle up as we reveal the smelly truth behind Hollywood's golden era, Joan Fontaine. As an Oscar-winning actress, she is remembered for her roles in classics like Rebecca and Suspicion. Despite her on-screen elegance, those who worked closely with her knew of her less-than-glamorous personal hygiene habits. Fontaine was known for infrequent bathing, which led to a noticeable body odor that co-stars and crew couldn't ignore. In her autobiography No Bed of Roses, Fontaine admitted to disliking the Hollywood studio system and its demands. Her rebellion against the system extended to her personal habits. Fontaine's co-star in Rebecca, Laurence Olivier, reportedly found working with her challenging due to her hygiene. On the set of Suspicion, Alfred Hitchcock, known for his meticulous attention to detail, allegedly had to address Fontaine's hygiene indirectly. Hitchcock, who directed Fontaine to her Oscar-winning performance, was famous for his subtle, sometimes harsh methods to elicit the best performances. Crew members recalled how he would ensure fresh air on set and discreetly place scented items around the filming area. Fontaine's personal letters also reveal her indifference to frequent bathing. In correspondence with her sister, Olivia de Havilland, there are mentions of her preference for natural scents. The two sisters had a famously tumultuous relationship, and Olivia would sometimes mock Joan's habits in their letters. The actress's hygiene became a topic of discussion among Hollywood insiders. Director George Cukor, who worked with Fontaine on The Women, noted that she often came to the set without having showered. Cukor's assistant recalled how the crew would sometimes spray perfume around her to mask the odor. Despite her hygiene issues, Fontaine maintained her reputation as a talented actress. Her dedication to her craft was undeniable, and she delivered performances that captivated audiences. However, behind the scenes, her personal habits created a different narrative. Fontaine's hygiene was not just a personal quirk, it became part of her Hollywood legacy, whispered about in dressing rooms and on film sets. Fontaine's reluctance to bathe regularly might have stemmed from her belief in natural living. She once told a friend that she thought frequent bathing stripped the body of its natural oils and scents. This belief was not uncommon among some celebrities of her time, who often adopted unconventional lifestyles and habits. In interviews later in life, Fontaine rarely addressed the rumors about her hygiene. When asked about her personal habits, she would deflect with charm and wit, much like the characters she portrayed on screen. Her fans remained enamored with her, largely unaware of the behind-the-scenes stories. Montgomery Clift. He was one of Hollywood's most talented and handsome actors. Starring in classics like A Place in the Sun and From Here to Eternity, Clift was admired for his method acting and intense performances. However, his personal life was plagued by struggles that extended to his hygiene, earning him a notorious reputation. Clift's hygiene issues were closely linked to his tumultuous personal life. He battled substance abuse, which significantly impacted his daily habits. His dependence on alcohol and prescription drugs often left him neglecting basic hygiene. Co-stars and friends noted his strong body odor, unkempt appearance, and lack of grooming. Elizabeth Taylor, Clift's close friend and frequent co-star, often tried to help him maintain his hygiene. Despite her efforts, Taylor remarked in private conversations that Clift's personal struggles made it difficult for him to care for himself. Taylor once said, "Monty was a beautiful soul, but sometimes he just didn't care about the way he smelled or looked." Clift's personal assistant during the filming of The Misfits recalled how the actor would go days without bathing. The assistant often had to encourage Clift to clean up before shoots. Crew members on the set would sometimes leave deodorant and fresh clothes in his trailer, hoping he would use them. On the set of Suddenly last summer, director Joseph L. Mankiewicz had to address Clift's hygiene directly. Mankiewicz, known for his attention to detail, reportedly asked Clift to shower before coming to the set, citing complaints from other cast members. Clift's co-star, Katharine Hepburn, was particularly vocal about the issue, though she remained supportive of his talent. Despite these problems, Clift's performances never suffered. He continued to deliver powerful, emotionally charged roles. His ability to compartmentalize his personal struggles from his professional work was remarkable. However, those close to him knew that his off-screen life was far from glamorous. In his later years, Clift's hygiene issues worsened. His health declined rapidly after a near-fatal car accident in 1956. The accident left him with severe injuries, which he treated with heavy doses of painkillers and alcohol. This exacerbated his neglect of personal hygiene. Clift's friends and family often intervened, trying to help him manage his habits. His brother, Brooks Clift, once mentioned in an interview that Montgomery's hygiene was a constant concern. Brooks would sometimes visit his brother and find him in a state of disarray, urging him to clean up. Despite the efforts of those around him, Clift's hygiene remained an issue until his death in 1966. Vivien Leigh. Known for her iconic roles in Gone with the Wind and A Streetcar Named Desire, she was one of Hollywood's most captivating actresses. Her beauty and talent earned her immense fame. But behind the scenes, Leigh struggled with severe mental health issues that affected her personal hygiene. Leigh was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which often left her in states of extreme emotional turmoil. Her condition, coupled with a hectic career, contributed to her neglect of personal hygiene. Colleagues and friends noted that during her manic episodes, Leigh would go days without bathing or changing clothes. Laurence Olivier, Leighy's husband and fellow actor, was one of the few who understood the full extent of her struggles. Olivier once confided to a friend, "Vivien's illness is a torment for her, and it shows in ways people wouldn't expect, like her hygiene." Despite his efforts to help her, Leigh's mental state often made it difficult for her to maintain regular hygiene routines. On the set of Gone with the Wind, director Victor Fleming and the crew had to deal with Leigh's unpredictable behavior and hygiene issues. Clark Gable, her co-star, reportedly complained about her strong body odor during close scenes. Gable's complaints were discreetly addressed by the production team, who tried to manage the situation without causing Leigh further distress. Leigh's personal assistant during the filming of A Streetcar Named Desire recalled how the actress would sometimes arrive on set unwashed and in the same clothes from the previous day. The assistant often had to gently remind her to freshen up before filming, a task made difficult by Leigh's volatile moods. Leigh's friends in the theater community also witnessed her struggles. During a stage production of Antony and Cleopatra, her co-star, Michael Redgrave, noted her erratic behavior and poor hygiene. Redgrave later wrote in his memoirs, "Vivien's brilliance on stage was undeniable, but offstage, she battled with demons that no one could see. In her later years, Leigh's hygiene issues became more pronounced as her mental health deteriorated. Her close friend and biographer, Ann Edwards, documented how Leigh's condition led to severe neglect of personal care. Edwards described visiting Leigh and finding her in a disheveled state, with strong body odor and unkempt hair. Leigh's hygiene problems were not a reflection of laziness, but a symptom of her severe mental health struggles. Her battle with bipolar disorder overshadowed many aspects of her life, including her ability to care for herself. Spencer Tracy. Being a two-time Academy Award-winning actor, he was celebrated for his powerful performances and natural acting style. Starring in classics like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and Captain's Courageous, Tracy was a giant of Hollywood's golden age. However, behind his on-screen charm and talent, Tracy was known for his poor personal hygiene, which stemmed from his struggles with alcoholism. Tracy's drinking problems were well documented and often affected his professional life. His addiction led to erratic behavior and neglect of personal care. Co-stars and crew members frequently commented on his strong body odor, unkempt appearance, and stained clothes. Katharine Hepburn, Tracy's longtime partner and co-star in numerous films, often tried to help him manage his hygiene, but her efforts were not always successful. On the set of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, director Stanley Kramer faced challenges due to Tracy's hygiene. Kramer later recalled in interviews how Tracy's drinking exacerbated his hygiene issues, making it difficult for the actor to maintain regular cleanliness. Despite this, Tracy's talent shone through, and he delivered a memorable performance that earned critical acclaim. Co-star Sidney Poitier admired Tracy's acting, but noted the hygiene issues. In his autobiography, Poitier mentioned, "Spencer was an incredible actor, but there were times when it was hard to ignore his strong smell and disheveled look." Poitier's comments reflected the general sentiment among those who worked closely with Tracy. Tracy's personal assistant during the filming of Adam's Rib also recalled instances of his poor hygiene. The assistant described how Tracy would often arrive on set without having bathed, with noticeable body odor. Crew members would discreetly place fresh clothes and hygiene products in his dressing room, hoping he would use them before shooting. Tracy's drinking problem was not a secret in Hollywood. Friends and colleagues frequently intervened, trying to help him overcome his addiction. Actor and close friend Clark Gable once commented on Tracy's hygiene, saying, "Spence was a great friend, but his drinking made him careless about how he looked and smelled." In his later years, Tracy's health declined due to his alcoholism, further worsening his hygiene. Hepburn often took care of him, ensuring he maintained some semblance of personal care. Despite her efforts, Tracy's condition made it challenging to uphold consistent hygiene. Veronica Lake. As an actress famed for her iconic peekaboo hairstyle and roles in films like Sullivan's Travels and This Gun for Hire, she was one of Hollywood's most glamorous stars. Behind her captivating on-screen presence, Lake harbored a reputation for poor personal hygiene, particularly her reluctance to wash her hair regularly. Lake's trademark hairstyle, which covered one eye, became a significant part of her persona. However, maintaining that look required a lot of upkeep, and Lake often neglected regular washing. Her co-stars and crew members noticed this and frequently commented on the strong odor from her hair. It was said that she would sometimes go days, if not weeks, without properly washing it. Alan Ladd, her co-star in several films, reportedly struggled with the close contact scenes due to the smell. In a private conversation with a crew member, Ladd allegedly remarked, "Veronica's talent is undeniable, but working so close to her can be tough with that smell." On the set of I Married a Witch, director René Clair had to delicately handle Lake's hygiene. Clair, known for his tactful approach, ensured that hair and makeup artists attended to her regularly, trying to mask the odor with perfumes and hair treatments. Despite their efforts, the problem persisted, and it became a running issue among the crew. Lake's personal life was fraught with difficulties that contributed to her hygiene issues. She struggled with alcoholism and mental health problems, which affected her ability to maintain a regular self-care routine. Her frequent binges left her in states where personal hygiene was the last thing on her mind. Her biographer, Jeff Lenberg, noted in his book Peekaboo, The Story of Veronica Lake, that her hygiene became increasingly problematic as her addiction worsened. During the filming of The Blue Dahlia, Lake's hygiene issues became more apparent. Co-star William Bendix found it challenging to perform romantic scenes with her due to her unwashed hair and body odor. Others shared Bendix's discomfort on set, who often found creative ways to avoid getting too close. Lake's hygiene was not just limited to her hair. Reports from her housekeepers and assistants indicated that she often neglected bathing altogether. One assistant recalled that Lake would sometimes wear the same clothes for several days, contributing to a noticeable smell. Despite this, her charisma and beauty often overshadowed these issues in the public eye. Cary Grant. As one of Hollywood's most charismatic and beloved actors, he is remembered for his roles in classics such as North by Northwest and To Catch a Thief. Known for his suave demeanor and impeccable style, Grant's off-screen habits presented a stark contrast to his on-screen image. Despite his polished appearance, he was infamous for his minimal use of deodorant and his preference for a more natural body scent, which sometimes led to noticeable body odor. Grant's hygiene habits were partly influenced by his personal beliefs. He was known to be quite health-conscious and believed in natural living. This belief extended to his grooming practices, where he avoided the use of artificial products, including deodorants. On the set of North by Northwest, director Alfred Hitchcock, who was known for his meticulous attention to detail, had to discreetly address Grant's body odor. Hitchcock's assistant recalled that the director would ensure the set was well ventilated and would occasionally suggest a break for fresh air, indirectly hinting at the need for Grant to freshen up. Co-star Eva Marie Saint, who worked closely with Grant, commented in her memoirs about his natural scent, noting, "Cary was a wonderful actor and a gentleman, but his preference for natural grooming was evident." Grant's personal assistant during the filming of To Catch a Thief shared anecdotes about his hygiene habits. The assistant revealed that Grant would often refuse to use the colognes and deodorants provided by the studio, insisting on his own natural regimen. Crew members would sometimes place scented items in his dressing room, hoping to mask the odor. Despite these issues, Grant's charm and professionalism ensured that his hygiene habits did not significantly affect his career. However, those who worked closely with him were well aware of his peculiar grooming practices. Director Stanley Donen, who worked with Grant on Charade, once joked in an interview, "Cary was the epitome of elegance on screen, but off-screen, he was quite the naturalist." Grant's preference for natural grooming was consistent throughout his life. His ex-wife, actress Diane Cannon, mentioned in her autobiography that Grant's hygiene habits were one of the many quirks that made him unique. Cannon mentioned that Cary prioritized health and natural living, asserting that the body could regulate itself without the need for artificial products. Friends and colleagues often respected Grant's choices even if they found them unusual. His close friend and fellow actor James Stewart remarked in a letter, "Cary was always true to himself. Even if it meant smelling a bit ripe at times, he believed in living naturally, and that was part of his charm." Grant's hygiene habits sometimes caused discomfort during intimate scenes. Deborah Kerr, his co-star in An Affair to Remember, reportedly found it challenging to perform romantic scenes due to his natural scent. Despite this, Kerr and Grant maintained a professional relationship, and she often praised his acting skills and professionalism in public interviews. During the filming of Houseboat with Sophia Loren, the Italian actress also noticed Grant's preference for natural grooming. Loren, who was known for her own meticulous personal care, found it surprising but endearing. She mentioned in an interview, "Cary was very much his own man. His natural approach was different, but it was part of what made him unique." Grant's commitment to natural living sometimes led to humorous situations on set. During the filming of Bringing Up Baby, Katharine Hepburn, known for her straightforward personality, once playfully confronted him about his smell. Hepburn, always direct, teased Grant about his lack of deodorant, to which he responded with his characteristic wit, making light of the situation and diffusing any tension. Mae West. As an iconic actress known for her witty one-liners and bold persona, she was one of Hollywood's most unforgettable stars. With roles in films like She Done Him Wrong and I'm No Angel, West's career was marked by her brazen confidence and larger-than-life character. However, behind the scenes, she was infamous for her personal hygiene habits, particularly her aversion to regular bathing. West's hygiene issues were well known among her colleagues. She believed that frequent bathing was unnecessary and even unhealthy. In her autobiography, Goodness had nothing to do with it. West candidly discussed her views on hygiene, stating, "I believe in natural living, and that means not stripping away the body's natural oils with too much washing." Her belief that bathing too often could harm her skin and health led her to bathe infrequently, a habit that was starkly at odds with the image of the glamorous star she portrayed on screen. Co-stars and crew members frequently commented on West's strong body odor. Director Lowell Sherman, who worked with her on She Done Him Wrong, recalled the challenges of maintaining a fresh environment on set. The strong scent often permeated her dressing room, and the crew took to airing it out regularly to make it more bearable. West's personal assistant during the filming of I'm No Angel shared stories about her hygiene routines. The assistant noted that West would often go days without bathing, relying on heavy perfumes to mask any odors. Despite this, her commanding presence and charisma often overshadowed these issues. West would douse herself in her favorite fragrances, such as Taboo by Dana, to cover up any unpleasant smells, a practice that only partially mitigated the issue. West's hygiene habits extended beyond her bathing routines. She was known to wear the same costumes repeatedly without laundering them. Costume designers and wardrobe assistants frequently complained about the odor of her outfits. Head and her team would have to frequently use fabric fresheners and sprays to manage the smell. Despite her hygiene issues, West's talent and wit made her a beloved figure in Hollywood. Her ability to captivate audiences with her performances and humor ensured her continued success. However, those who worked closely with her could not ignore the challenges posed by her hygiene. West's hygiene habits often became the subject of gossip among Hollywood insiders. At parties and social gatherings, whispers about her strong scent and unwashed clothes circulated. Yet, West remained unbothered by the chatter, continuing to live her life on her own terms. Her confidence and disregard for societal norms only added to her allure. During the production of Mira Breckenridge, West's hygiene issues again came to light. Co-star Raquel Welch found it difficult to work closely with her due to the smell. The film's crew also had to make adjustments, ensuring that the set was well ventilated and often using air fresheners to manage the odor. West's commitment to her unique lifestyle extended to her diet and overall health practices. She often ate organic foods and avoided processed items, believing that a natural diet was key to her well-being. This philosophy was reflected in her minimal use of commercial hygiene products, which she believed contained harmful chemicals. Instead, she used natural remedies and homemade concoctions, further contributing to her distinct scent. They may look like $1 million on screen, but off-camera, these leading men are known for their less than appealing personal hygiene. In the 1920s and 1930s, actors like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton dazzled audiences with their slapstick routines and daring stunts. But hygiene? Not so much. Sets were basic, outdoor locations lacked running water, and showers were rare luxuries. After a long day of physical comedy, chances are the stars didn't smell as charming as they appeared. Still, audiences adored them, and hygiene, or the lack thereof, wasn't part of the discussion. By the 1940s, the studio system had taken over, and stars were carefully styled to fit a flawless image. Publicists worked hard to craft personas for leading men and starlets. However, not everyone embraced the polished expectations. Some actors leaned into a rugged, carefree image. Even into the golden age of Hollywood, whispers about the Hollywood stench circulated among crew members. Makeup artists and wardrobe teams occasionally struggled to manage stars who didn't prioritize personal care. For some, it was part of their charm, a rejection of the polished, controlled image studios wanted to project. For others, it was simply a byproduct of long hours and intense filming schedules. Marlon Brando is a name that stands tall in Hollywood history. Known for redefining acting with his groundbreaking performances, he brought a gritty realism to classics like A Streetcar Named Desire and The Godfather. But Brando wasn't just known for his craft. His hygiene, or lack of it, became an infamous part of his legend. For him, acting wasn't about pretending, it was about becoming. And if his characters didn't care about grooming, neither did he. Staying in character often meant personal hygiene took a back seat. Reports from co-stars and crew paint a vivid picture.
Brando's body odor was so overpowering, people avoided lingering near him for too long. On the set of The Godfather, Brando's habits didn't go unnoticed. Crew members reportedly dreaded stepping into his trailer, where the smell was, let's say, unforgettable. Some accounts claim the stench was so intense it lingered long after he left the room. Brando, however, wasn't bothered. He openly admitted that he didn't see the point of regular showers and often wore the same clothes for days. To him, all that mattered was the art. Despite the discomfort he caused on set, Brando's talent was undeniable. His ability to inhabit a character was unmatched, and his lack of concern for appearances only added to his rebellious mystique. Brando wasn't about playing by the rules, he rewrote them. While some found his habits frustrating, others saw it as part of what made him a creative force. Brando's unpolished demeanor became part of his allure. He wasn't trying to be perfect or polished, and that authenticity resonated with audiences. His raw talent and refusal to conform made him a symbol of the anti-Hollywood establishment. His refusal to play the Hollywood game, on or off the screen, only solidified his status as a true original. And speaking of actors who exuded rugged charisma while breaking the rules, few captured the rebellious spirit of Hollywood quite like Steve McQueen. Known as the King of Cool, McQueen didn't just star in films like Bullitt and The Great Escape, he embodied them. His on-screen intensity and effortless charm drew audiences in, but his colleagues weren't always as enamored. Behind the scenes, McQueen was as famous for his untamed habits as he was for his box office success. It wasn't just his defiance of Hollywood norms that stood out, it was his unapologetic disregard for hygiene, which became an unspoken part of his tough guy mystique. McQueen was a rebel, both in life and in cleanliness. On set, he was known for skipping showers and wearing the same clothes for days. Sweaty, scruffy, and unapologetic, he carried his I do what I want energy everywhere, even if it made others keep their distance. Co-stars and crew often whispered about his strong body odor. Yet, many chalked it up to his rough-edged authenticity. During The Great Escape, McQueen's habits reportedly caused some challenges. His natural musk became a talking point among the crew, and director John Sturges wasn't thrilled about it. Some even joked that McQueen's scent should have gotten its own credit in the movie. The same was said during Bullitt, where McQueen's sweaty dedication to action scenes made him a legend, and a bit of a nose-plug necessity for those nearby. For McQueen, his carefree attitude wasn't a gimmick, it was who he was. He wasn't interested in playing the Hollywood game of perfection. He wanted to be real, and if that meant skipping a shower or two, so be it. His friends often described him as someone who lived on his own terms. If you didn't like it, that was your problem, not his. Despite the grumblings behind the scenes, McQueen's smelly reputation didn't tarnish his career. Instead, it became part of his rough-and-tumble charm. Fans loved him for his fearless authenticity, even if his co-stars didn't always love his, scent. McQueen's name as the ultimate action star remains untouched. His scruffy, sweaty image only made him more relatable, more magnetic, and yes, a little more human. Even if he wasn't the freshest-smelling guy on set, Steve McQueen was, and always will be, the king of cool. Fast forward to a new era of heartthrobs, and we find another actor who captured global attention with his mysterious charm, but for an entirely different audience. Robert Pattinson's transformation into the brooding vampire Edward Cullen in Twilight had fans swooning and filling theaters. His piercing gaze and enigmatic demeanor elevated him to instant stardom, cementing his place as the face of the franchise. During the Twilight era, Pattinson developed a reputation for being, let's say, low maintenance when it came to personal grooming. He openly admitted to rarely showering, often going days, sometimes weeks, without freshening up. "I don't like washing," he famously confessed, a comment that raised more than a few eyebrows. While his disheveled, devil-may-care attitude endeared him to some fans, it became a running joke on set. Crew members on the Twilight films didn't hold back, with several noting that Pattinson's body odor was, shall we say, memorable. His co-stars, including Kristen Stewart, made sly comments about his grooming habits in interviews. Some tried to laugh it off, framing his lack of hygiene as part of his quirky charm. Others were less charitable, suggesting that his resistance to basic cleanliness was a bit much, even for Hollywood's most rebellious leading man. Pattinson's reluctance to embrace showers wasn't limited to his personal life. He famously wore the same clothes repeatedly, often for days at a time. While many of his peers spent hours in hair and makeup, Pattinson seemed to delight in showing up as is, unapologetically unkempt. His attitude toward cleanliness was less about rebellion and more about sheer indifference. He simply didn't care, and somehow that only added to his mystique. Despite the chatter about his hygiene, Pattinson's career flourished. His raw talent and unconventional charm overshadowed any rumors about his scent. In fact, his scruffy, nonconformist vibe only made him more appealing to fans who saw him as refreshingly real compared to the hyper-polished stars surrounding him. Pattinson's rise to fame proved that Hollywood's obsession with perfection has its exceptions. Whether or not he smelled like a fresh meadow, his talent and charisma shone through. And let's be honest, in a world of picture-perfect vampires, it was nice to know that even Edward Cullen could be a little human after all. Switching from brooding vampires to endearingly awkward British charm, we come to Hugh Grant. Bursting onto the Hollywood scene in the 1990s, Grant became the quintessential leading man for romantic comedies like Four Weddings and A Funeral and Notting Hill. His boyish good looks and stammering wit made audiences fall head over heels, cementing him as one of the most beloved actors of the decade. Behind the polished, swoon-worthy on-screen persona was someone who took a much more casual approach to personal hygiene. Grant was famously laid back, and his grooming habits reflected that relaxed vibe. Reports from various sets suggest that his disheveled appearance wasn't always a costume. It was just Hugh being Hugh. Wrinkled clothes, messy hair, and a noticeable lack of freshening up were common features of his off-screen style. Crew members on films like 9 Months and Bridget Jones, The Edge of Reason often joked about his au naturel approach to cleanliness. One recurring quirk? Grant would show up to set in the same clothes he wore the day before, looking suspiciously like he'd rolled straight out of bed. Showers and hairbrushes didn't seem to make it into his morning routine very often. And while some co-stars may have politely avoided commenting, crew members weren't shy about noticing his laissez-faire attitude toward grooming. Despite his sometimes questionable hygiene, Grant's charm always won people over. His imperfections made him relatable, and his self-deprecating humor disarmed even his toughest critics. In an industry obsessed with perfect looks and carefully curated images, Grant's carefree demeanor felt refreshingly authentic. However, his relaxed habits weren't without their challenges. Rumors of skipped showers and unbrushed teeth occasionally led to whispers among those who worked closely with him. But for Grant, it was just part of who he was. He wasn't interested in conforming to Hollywood's obsession with flawless appearances. In the end, Grant's laid-back hygiene habits never slowed him down. His on-screen magic kept audiences hooked, and his ability to make people laugh and swoon secured his spot as one of Hollywood's most beloved actors. Even if he didn't always smell like roses, Hugh Grant's charm was enough to carry him through. Speaking of actors who broke the mold and rewrote the rules, few names come to mind as quickly as Johnny Depp. When Depp swaggered onto the screen as Captain Jack Sparrow, he wasn't just playing a pirate, he was redefining one. With his slurred speech, off-kilter humor, and wildly unpredictable energy, Sparrow became one of the most iconic characters of the 2000s. Depp's performance turned a quirky supporting role into the centerpiece of Pirates of the Caribbean, skyrocketing his career to new heights. Behind the scenes, Depp's habits veered far from Hollywood's glossy standards. His reputation for skipping showers and rocking a lived-in look followed him everywhere. Turns out, Depp wasn't just unconventional in his acting. His grooming routines, or lack thereof, became part of the story too. From the sets of Pirates of the Caribbean to Finding Neverland, reports often mentioned Depp's disheveled appearance. Co-stars and crew knew he wasn't one to fuss over his reflection. Depp openly admitted to going weeks without a proper shower. It wasn't a statement or rebellion, just Depp being Depp. He preferred to focus on his craft rather than what shampoo to use. His unkempt look seemed to bleed into his roles, adding a raw authenticity that fans adored. Not everyone found it charming, though. Orlando Bloom, Depp's Pirates co-star, joked that Depp's scent took some getting used to. Crew members whispered about his lingering body odor, a kind of ode to Depp that stuck around long after he left. Still, most shrugged it off as part of his quirky charm. In a world obsessed with appearances, Depp's unapologetic attitude felt refreshingly real to many. For Depp, this carefree approach wasn't just about hygiene. It was part of his larger rebellion against Hollywood norms. He built a career on playing characters that didn't fit the mold, and his off-screen persona followed suit. Depp wasn't trying to be a heartthrob or a polished leading man. He wanted to be an artist, and his odd habits became as much a part of his mystique as his roles. Ironically, Depp has been the face of Dior Sauvage since 2015, fronting ad campaigns for the fragrance line that includes eau de toilette, parfum, aftershave lotion, and deodorant. Somehow, the contrast only adds to his mystique. Depp was and remains in a league of his own, unpolished, unpredictable, and undeniably captivating. And when it comes to unpredictability, few actors rival Nicolas Cage. Known for his intense performances and outlandish choices, Cage has carved out a space in Hollywood that's entirely his own. From stealing the Declaration of Independence in National Treasure to unleashing unbridled chaos in Mandy, his larger-than-life energy makes him a perfect fit for roles that demand eccentricity. But Cage's intensity isn't limited to the screen. It spills over into his personal life, including his grooming habits. Stories from film sets paint a picture of an actor who throws himself so fully into his roles that personal upkeep often takes a back seat. Whether it's skipping showers or embracing an unkempt aesthetic, Cage's offbeat approach to life has left co-stars and crew with memorable anecdotes about his, let's say, earthy presence. Cage himself has admitted that he cares more about his craft than his appearance. Grooming, he said, simply isn't a priority when he's diving into a role. His off-screen look often mirrored the chaos of his characters: rumpled clothes, unkempt hair, and a general air of dishevelment. During the filming of Ghost Rider, reports of Cage's body odor made their way around the set, with some crew members noticeably uncomfortable. For Cage, this wasn't about making a statement. It was just who he was. Someone so focused on his work that everything else fell by the wayside. Even on the set of National Treasure, Cage's hygiene habits became an inside joke. He'd often show up in the same outfit he'd worn the day before, hair looking like it hadn't seen a comb in weeks. Co-stars joked about his wild appearance, but it was all in good fun. For most, this was just another layer of Cage's unpredictable charm. His messy aesthetic only added to his mystique, making him seem more like a mad genius than a polished leading man. Despite the jokes and occasional grumbles, Cage's talent always took center stage. His ability to bring raw emotion and complexity to every role outweighed any complaints about his grooming. Fans and critics were more interested in his acting than his hygiene. In fact, his unpolished demeanor became part of his brand, an extension of his unpredictable, no-holds-barred approach to both life and work. And speaking of stars who embrace their natural selves, Matthew McConaughey takes the concept to a whole new level. Rising to fame in the late 1990s and early 2000s, McConaughey became the epitome of cool with roles in films like Dazed and Confused and The Wedding Planner. His breezy confidence and southern charm made him a household name, winning over audiences with his easygoing, relatable appeal. But McConaughey's relaxed vibe didn't stop at his public persona. It spilled over into his personal life, particularly his approach to hygiene. On the sets of films like Magic Mike and The Lincoln Lawyer, whispers began circulating about McConaughey's unconventional grooming habits. He openly admitted he didn't see the point of daily showers, preferring to embrace his body's natural scent. In interviews, McConaughey was unapologetic about his approach, often laughing off questions about his hygiene. "I smell like the beach," he quipped in one interview, as if his salty, sweaty aroma was all part of the package. Not everyone shared his enthusiasm for going natural. Co-stars occasionally commented on the challenges of working in close quarters with him during long filming days. One even hinted that McConaughey's natural musk made intimate scenes a little too memorable, but McConaughey brushed off the critiques, sticking to his laid-back, go-with-the-flow philosophy. To him, it was just another way of staying true to himself. Despite the occasional grumbles from those who had to endure his earthy aroma, McConaughey's career didn't miss a beat. His charisma and undeniable talent kept audiences hooked. Whether playing a smooth-talking lawyer or a dreamy rom-com lead, he continued to charm his way into fans' hearts. His relaxed, beachy persona only added to his appeal, solidifying his image as Hollywood's ultimate free spirit. In many ways, McConaughey's disregard for traditional grooming became part of his mystique. Fans saw him as the guy who didn't sweat the small stuff, literally. His unpolished approach to life set him apart in an industry obsessed with perfection, making him one of the most relatable and adored stars of his generation. For McConaughey, staying true to himself always came first, even if it meant skipping a shower or two. And while McConaughey leaned into his laid-back charm, Gerard Butler took ruggedness to a whole new level, rising to international fame with his iconic role as King Leonidas in 300. Butler became synonymous with tough guy grit and fearless intensity. His chiseled physique and commanding presence on screen were a direct result of intense training regimens that pushed him to the limits. But all that sweat and determination didn't always lead to a post-workout shower. On the set of 300 and Olympus Has Fallen, Butler's dedication to physical training often came at a cost, mainly to those around him. After grueling workouts and hours of filming battle scenes, Butler was known for skipping showers. Crew members joked about his lingering body odor, but it became part of the raw and real vibe he brought to his roles. While some actors would freshen up after a tough day, Butler seemed unbothered. For him, staying focused on his work mattered more than smelling fresh. One story from 300 stands out. After an intense training session, Butler would head straight to set without bothering to clean up. His scent, described by some as noticeable, filled the room. Instead of being embarrassed, Butler owned it. He embraced his gritty, unpolished persona and seemed to enjoy the jokes at his expense. His attitude fit the Spartan warrior image he was portraying, rugged, raw, and unapologetically intense. Not everyone on set was thrilled, of course. Some co-stars found his habits hard to deal with, especially in close quarters. But for fans, these quirks only added to his appeal. Butler's rugged, no-nonsense image resonated with audiences, and his performances overshadowed any off-screen complaints. Interestingly, despite his rugged persona, Gerard Butler has admitted to being terrified of shaking hands. After walking the red carpet, he often makes a beeline for the nearest bathroom to wash up, worried about catching germs. Butler's rough-around-the-edges charm kept him landing major roles, solidifying his place as one of Hollywood's favorite action stars. His refusal to conform made him stand out, and for many that raw energy was part of what made him unforgettable. Hollywood's brightest stars often leave us starstruck, but some leave us holding our noses instead. James Dean, the 1950s brooding heartthrob, did both. Sure, he made hearts race, but he also made nostrils flare with his signature eau de rebelle. Dean's hygiene habits were as unconventional as his acting style. He was known for his intense method acting, refusing to break character, even when the cameras weren't rolling. This dedication didn't just stop with his acting, it stretched to how he looked and smelled. Dean would wear the same clothes for days. He thought it helped him stay in character. On the set of East of Eden, his co-star Julie Harris said, "Jimmy had a wonderful, natural body smell. It was clean, but it was definite." Charming to some, sure, but not everyone was into Dean's natural musk. While filming Rebel Without a Cause, director Nicholas Ray had to politely ask Dean to hit the showers more often. Apparently, his aroma was becoming a bit too distracting. But the scent issues didn't stop there. Dean was a heavy smoker, often chain-smoking unfiltered cigarettes. Combine that with his love of coffee, and you've got breath that could take down a bull.
His smoky, coffee-soaked exhalations were infamous. Co-stars dreaded doing intimate scenes with him, overwhelmed by his breath. Makeup artists? They had their work cut out trying to freshen him up for close-ups. Let's just say, his habits left their mark. Interestingly, despite the smell, Dean's rebellious charm still had a way of captivating those around him. His offbeat persona, coupled with his intensity, created a mystique that only heightened his allure on screen. Despite all of this, Dean's talent and magnetic screen presence were undeniable. His tragic death at 24 only added to his mystique, securing his place as a cultural icon. While James Dean's scent may have faded into history, the world of pop music has its own olfactory offenders. Britney Spears, the Princess of Pop, has been making headlines for years with her chart-topping hits. But behind the scenes, she's hit a few sour notes in the hygiene department. Rumors about Spears' not-so-fresh scent have been swirling for years. Former bodyguards, housekeepers, and even fellow celebrities have spilled the tea, or should we say, held their noses. One ex-bodyguard claimed that Spears would often go days without showering or brushing her teeth. Apparently, her odor could clear a room faster than one of her high-energy dance routines. But it's not just basic hygiene that's been a challenge. Spears has a well-known love for cigarettes and fast food. This combo has reportedly left her breath smelling less than fresh. During her time as a judge on The X Factor, it was rumored that producers kept mints and mouthwash on standby. Her exhalations were apparently a bit too potent for comfort. Her eating habits haven't helped either. Spears loves tuna and often eats multiple cans a day. Great for omega-3s, sure, but not so great for body odor. One former assistant even claimed that Spears' dressing room smelled like fish long after she'd left. A lingering scent, indeed. There were even reports that Spears would walk barefoot in public restrooms, causing further concerns about her hygiene practices. These instances added to the public fascination with her offstage lifestyle. Despite these little hygiene hiccups, Spears remains a pop culture icon. Fans seem willing to overlook, or maybe hold their noses through, any olfactory mishaps. They're here for the music, after all. And let's face it, when you're belting out "Oh, baby one more time" at the top of your lungs, who's really noticing a little body odor? While Britney's fishy fragrance might turn some stomachs, it's nothing compared to the pungent aroma that defined the grunge scene of the 90s. Kurt Cobain, the iconic frontman of Nirvana, wasn't just known for his raw talent and haunting lyrics. He was also famous for his potent personal aroma. Cobain's hygiene struggles were well documented throughout his tragically short career. Battling depression and drug addiction, the singer often went days or even weeks without bathing. His long, greasy hair and unwashed clothes became as much a part of his image as his raspy voice and distorted guitar riffs. But it wasn't just the lack of showers. Cobain was a heavy smoker, constantly chain-smoking during interviews and backstage. Mix that with his love for strong cheeses and his ongoing stomach problems, and you've got a breath that could peel paint off walls. One interviewer even described talking to Cobain as like being downwind of a landfill on a hot day. His bandmates and crew members weren't shy about mentioning his scent either. Dave Grohl, Nirvana's drummer, once joked that you could always find Kurt's hotel room by following your nose. His unwashed clothes and body were infamous. Despite this, those who knew him well saw beyond the smell. They described Cobain as a gentle, caring soul, with his personal struggles often showing up in his lack of self-care. His hygiene, or lack thereof, was just another reflection of his inner turmoil. The grunge movement itself seemed to embrace Cobain's unkempt look. Grunge was all about rejecting mainstream polish, and Cobain's lack of personal hygiene fit the bill perfectly. For his fans, his disregard for showers was like a middle finger to societal norms, aligning with the angst and alienation his music captured. In Kurt's case, the nose-wrinkling stench of teen spirit was just part of the package. And really, could you even imagine him any other way? Moving from the gritty streets of Seattle to the bustling film sets of Hong Kong, Jackie Chan may be known for his death-defying stunts and impeccable comic timing, but off-screen, he's been fighting a different battle against body odor. Chan's hygiene issues have been an open secret in Hollywood for years. Known for doing his own stunts, the action star works up quite the sweat, but according to co-stars and crew, his post-stunt aroma goes way beyond your average locker room funk. One of his frequent collaborators, Chris Tucker, has even joked about it. During the filming of the Rush Hour series, Tucker would often improvise lines about his character's sensitivity to smells, a not-so-subtle nod to Chan's real-life odor issues. In one hilarious outtake, Tucker quipped, "Rush Hour, more like rush to the shower." It wasn't just Rush Hour that suffered through Chan's natural musk. Some crew members from other films have reported that even after long hours on set, Chan would sometimes skip a post-shoot wash. His dedication to getting the perfect take seemed to extend to skipping personal maintenance. Several insiders have mentioned that after particularly grueling scenes, the smell of sweat and dirt would linger on him long after filming had wrapped. But it's not just the sweat that's been raising eyebrows. Chan has a well-known love for durian, the infamously stinky fruit banned in many public places. Between takes, Chan would snack on it, leaving his co-stars and crew grimacing. One director reportedly had to implement a no-durian policy on set after receiving complaints about the fruit's overpowering smell lingering in the air. Despite his olfactory offenses, Chan remains one of the most beloved figures in action cinema. His charm, talent, and fearless approach to filmmaking seem to overshadow any concerns about his personal scent. Some even say that Chan's earthy aroma adds to his everyman appeal, making him seem more relatable than his polished Hollywood peers. Chan, always the comedian, has addressed the rumors with humor. In one interview, he joked, "I'm not smelly, I'm just very natural. It's all part of the Jackie Chan experience." Whether that's an experience fans are keen to have up close is another question entirely. While Chan's natural musk might be considered charming by some, our next star's hygiene issues were anything but. Michael Jackson, the undisputed king of pop, was known for his groundbreaking music and electrifying performances. But behind the scenes, it seems the Thriller star was battling some not-so-thrilling hygiene problems. Jackson's struggles with personal hygiene reportedly started in the late 1980s, as his fame soared to new heights. Those close to him began noticing a decline in his grooming habits. He would often wear the same clothes for days. His signature sequined glove, once a bold fashion statement, became a cover-up for his unwashed hands. But it wasn't just body odor that raised eyebrows. Jackson's breath was said to be particularly potent. His poor dental hygiene, combined with his unusual diet of candy and sugary drinks, didn't help matters. Rarely brushing his teeth, Jackson's breath was once described by a former staff member as strong enough to knock a buzzard off a gut wagon. Not exactly the kind of sweet sensation you'd expect from the king of pop. His aversion to bathing became more noticeable as his career went on. During the filming of his Ghosts short film in 1996, director Stan Winston reportedly had to beg Jackson to shower. The cramped set wasn't doing anyone any favors as his odor started to take center stage. Makeup artists dreaded working close to him, often resorting to breathing through their mouths just to get through the day. But it wasn't just Jackson's person that had issues. Neverland Ranch, once a magical wonderland, started to show signs of neglect. Visitors reported a strong stench of animal waste from his exotic pets, mixed with the musty odor of unwashed clothes and bedding. It seemed his fairy tale paradise wasn't as spotless as fans imagined. Despite all these olfactory offenses, Jackson's star power and talent never dimmed. Fans were more than willing to overlook or hold their noses through any hygiene mishaps, choosing to focus on his undeniable genius. Some believe Jackson's deteriorating personal habits were a reflection of the immense pressure he faced, a physical manifestation of his inner struggles. Speaking of musical geniuses with questionable hygiene, Christina Aguilera, the pint-sized powerhouse with pipes of steel, has been hitting some sour notes in the hygiene department. Rumors about Aguilera's scent have been floating around for years. Despite her polished appearance on stage, the reality behind the scenes seems quite different. Those who've worked closely with her paint a less glamorous picture. One former assistant described her natural aroma as a mix of hot dogs and diaper rash. Not exactly what you'd expect from a pop diva, but it's not just body odor that's causing a stir. Aguilera's breath has also been a hot topic. She's a self-professed foodie who loves strong-smelling foods like garlic, onions, and blue cheese. Combine that with her chain-smoking habit, and you've got a breath that could knock a vulture off a gut wagon. During her time as a judge on The Voice, her co-stars weren't exactly lining up to get close. Adam Levine once joked, "Christina doesn't smell bad, she just smells like a dog that needs to be bathed." Though meant as a joke, it only fueled the rumors about her hygiene habits. Aguilera's tour days were reportedly just as smelly. Some crew members noted that her dressing rooms often had an unusual lingering scent, a mix of sweat and her favorite snacks. It was also said that her costumes, especially those worn for high-energy performances, weren't always sent to be cleaned right away. The buildup of odors from constant performances became impossible to ignore. Still, Aguilera's talent shines through. Her powerful voice and undeniable stage presence seem to overpower any concerns about her scent. In fact, some fans argue her earthy aroma is just part of her raw, unfiltered persona. It sets her apart from the overly polished pop stars of today. It's all part of her charm, or so her fans say. And if Christina's scent is raw and unfiltered, Lady Gaga takes au naturel to a whole new level. The avant-garde artist, famous for her wild outfits and boundary-pushing performances, has reportedly been turning stomachs as well as heads with her unique scent. Gaga's hygiene issues first surfaced in her early fame days. Known for grueling performances and elaborate costumes, she would sometimes go days without showering while on tour. One former assistant even claimed that Gaga would wear the same underwear for days, leading to an odor that could only be described as gag-worthy. But it's not just sweat and unwashed clothes that contribute to Gaga's funky fragrance. She's also known for her love of raw meat. Who could forget the infamous meat dress she wore to the 2010 MTV Video Music Awards? While the dress was eventually preserved and turned into beef jerky, her fondness for carnivorous couture left a lasting impression, quite literally, on those around her. The smell of the dress lingered long after the event, making people wonder if Gaga had embraced the concept of meat perfume. During the filming of American Horror Story, Hotel, where Gaga played a vampire countess, her co-stars weren't thrilled with her method acting. Set insiders reported that Gaga insisted on drinking small amounts of blood, allegedly pig's blood, to get into character. This, combined with her questionable hygiene habits, led to a breath that could curdle milk from across the room. Her commitment to her role, though impressive, was not exactly nose-friendly for the cast and crew. Despite all these olfactory offenses, Gaga's talent and creativity continue to dazzle audiences. Her loyal fans, affectionately known as Little Monsters, seem more than willing to hold their noses in exchange for her artistry. After all, in Lady Gaga's world, a little stink is just part of the performance. While Gaga's odor might be described as monstrous, Andre the Giant, the legendary wrestler of the 1970s and 80s, was known not only for his immense size and strength, but also for his overwhelming body odor. Standing at 7 feet 4 inches and weighing over 500 pounds, Andre's hygiene issues were as outsized as his frame. His gigantism, a condition that caused his body to produce excess growth hormone, was partly to blame. This condition led to excessive sweating. Combined with his massive size, staying fresh was almost impossible. Andre's fellow wrestlers often mentioned the difficulty of grappling with the giant, not just because of his strength, but also due to his potent aroma. Jake the Snake Roberts once joked, "Andre's smell was so bad it could have knocked a buzzard off a Shh-TT wagon." Locker rooms that Andre frequented reportedly needed serious airing out once he left. But it wasn't just sweat causing Andre's notorious stench. The man had a legendary appetite and an even bigger love for alcohol. It was said that Andre could drink over 100 beers in one sitting. This led to a constant state of alcohol-induced sweat. His diet didn't help either. Heavy on protein and low on fresh fruits and veggies, his meals often left him with an unmistakable odor. Despite his odorous reputation, Andre remained one of the most beloved figures in professional wrestling. His gentle nature, despite his size, endeared him to fans and fellow wrestlers. In many ways, his pungent aroma just became part of his larger-than-life persona. Whether in the ring or out, it was all part of the Andre the Giant experience. Out of the wrestling ring and into the world of pop, Jessica Simpson made headlines not just for her newlyweds' antics, but also for her less-than-fresh approach to oral hygiene. In a 2010 appearance on The Ellen DeGeneres Show, Simpson proudly admitted she only brushed her teeth maybe 3 times a week. Her reasoning: "My teeth are so white and I don't like them to feel too slippery, but I do use Listerine and floss every day," she explained. "But I don't brush them every day." This revelation shocked the dental community and left fans questioning how close they really wanted to get to the star. Simpson's confession even risked her endorsement deals. At the time, she was the face of Pizza Hut, but the fast food chain reportedly reconsidered keeping her as a spokesperson after her dental hygiene admission. But it's not just her teeth that have raised eyebrows. Simpson has been known to go extended periods without showering, particularly during her reality TV days. In one infamous Newlyweds episode, Simpson declared, "I don't like to shower, I just like to feel dirty," much to the annoyance of her then-husband, Nick Lackey. Despite these hygiene hiccups, Simpson remains a pop culture icon and a wildly successful businesswoman. Her billion-dollar fashion empire proves that a little funk doesn't necessarily mean a financial flop. In fact, it seems her laid-back, real persona only helped endear her more to fans. While Simpson's hygiene habits may raise eyebrows, Jared Leto's commitment to method acting took things to a whole new level of funk. The Oscar-winning actor, known for his intense dedication, pushed the boundaries of personal hygiene for his role as the Joker in Suicide Squad. Leto's approach to playing the Batman villain was extreme. He went beyond the usual preparations, deciding that the Joker wouldn't care much about cleanliness. During production, Leto reportedly went weeks without bathing. He even rolled around in dirt and rubbed garbage on himself to achieve the perfect Joker stench. The result? An odor so intense it left castmates gagging. Viola Davis, one of his co-stars, recalled the first time she encountered Leto in character. "The stench of him was just unbearable," she said. "It was really bad. A mix of body odor, cigarettes, and some sort of cologne that I think he thought the Joker would wear. The smell was so strong, it lingered long after he'd left the room." But Leto didn't stop at body odor. He decided the Joker would have terrible oral hygiene, too. To achieve this, Leto allegedly stopped brushing his teeth. He even gargled with mouthwash meant to make his breath worse and chewed on foul-smelling herbs to enhance the effect. The result? An aroma so potent, crew members could smell him coming from across the set. Margot Robbie, who played Harley Quinn, had to brace herself before filming intimate scenes with Leto. She joked in an interview, "I thought I was ready for anything, but that smell? It was like acting opposite a dumpster fire." Despite the smell, Leto's castmates couldn't help but grudgingly admire his commitment. Will Smith, who played Deadshot, said, "I've never actually met Jared Leto. I've only ever met the Joker." Whether that was praise or a reflection of everyone's desire to keep their distance is up for debate. Even the director, David Ayer, had to step in at one point. He asked Leto to tone down the stench, as it was affecting the crew's ability to work. Leto reportedly compromised by using deodorant, but only if it was a brand he felt the Joker would use. Something toxic and chemical-smelling, of course. Now, if you catch a waft of something less than pleasant, remember, it might just be the scent of stardom. Sometimes Hollywood just plain stinks.